the Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Best in the World with Richard Parr. This is definitely the Best in the World with Richard Parr. I got quite confused on my other show, Sportacino, the breakfast show, broadcast every weekday morning on Facebook Live and now YouTube from 8 a.m. British Standard Time, where I accidentally called that show the Best in the World with Richard Parr. But this isn't Sportacino, this is the Best in the World, because we dissect what makes Olympic champions, world number ones, and former world record holders the best at what they do. On this week's show, we learn from the two-time Olympic gold medalist Heather Stanning. She's also a two-time world champion, and she discusses her daily routine, nutrition, and the mental preparation needed ahead of a major event. She also talks about her relationship with her rowing partner Helen Glover and the role the army has played in her success, because Heather is a major in the Royal Artillery. We talk about that and a lot more on today's podcast. You do not want to miss it. Well, today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is one of the leading suppliers of audiobooks in the world. They've got over 180,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to them on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or your MP3 player. Definitely worth doing. It is a product I personally use, and guess what? The kind people at Audible are offering you the chance to test out their service. All you've got to do is go to audibletrial.com/best. That's audibletrial.com/best, and there you will get a 30-day free trial of their product, and that includes one free download, and that can be any audio book you like, and they've got lots of different titles including sports, so I recommend you check it out. That code again is audibletrial.com/best. Well, let's get to it. Let's go and learn from the very best. Let's go and learn from Heather Stanning.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Heather Stanning, two-time Olympic gold medalist in rowing. Welcome to the Best in the World. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll begin with, what have you been up to since you won that gold medal back in Rio?
Oh, thank you, Richard. Well, it's nice to be with you. What have I done since coming back from Rio? It's been just kind of a whirlwind of busyness, but nothing in particular, to be honest. I've been all over the country seeing friends and family, and then kind of doing the media rounds, whether it's kind of going on the breakfast show, doing Question of Sport, and also kind of going to schools, visiting schools and kind of showing people my medals, and then obviously Helen's wedding. That was a nice kind of break from the craziness of everything else. Kind of a little bit of everything, and then also trying to get back into work a little bit with the army, but not full time yet. So kind of been fairly busy.
And now on the Best in the World with Richard Parr. It really has been.
Well, exactly,
and we're going to go into so many of those different things. Do you enjoy this time, or does it become frustrating? Because surely when you're building up to the Olympics, you get yourself into a certain routine and everything like that. When you don't have that kind of schedule and that routine, does it become frustrating for someone like you?
It's just really different. I think initially we love the fact that you're not in a routine and you could do different stuff, and you can go and visit people, and it's not kind of revolving around myself, and I can go and visit people rather than expecting them to come see me, and that's really nice. Suddenly you've got freedom to do lots of stuff, but after a few weeks you're craving routine again. You're like, oh goodness, like how many nights have I had out of my bed this week, sort of thing. You kind of that never happens normally. So it's kind of a fine balancing line of some of it's quite fun, and then after a while I crave routine again, but all the things I'm doing are all really fun. So it's a little bit of both, but not frustrating in a way. It's just different, making the most of it, because it's not forever, and it won't carry on forever.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit like a holiday. You enjoy it, but ultimately, sometimes you want to go home. I think we're creatures of habit at heart, really.
Well, exactly. I think everyone loves routine and they love habit, and you can accept change for a while, and sometimes you're like, I just want to go back to what I was doing.
So, in the weeks leading up to Rio, why don't you discuss what was your daily routine for a typical training day? What time would you be getting up? What would you be eating? What type of training you'd be doing when you break for lunch? Maybe just give us an idea of what your day was looking.
Yeah, so like a typical day for a rower, we kind of get up. It's not too early when you're training full time with the national squad. You're not having to go to work, so it's not the crack of dawn that some people think we have to do. It's kind of a sensible time. Get up about 7, kind of go to the training centre. We all meet at 7:30. I'm on the water by 8. By then I've already had one breakfast, and after the first session we have a second breakfast, and then kind of probably back on the water again for another hour or so before having lunch. And then in the afternoon tends to be when we do, so the mornings we do kind of our endurance work, whether it's on the water, on the ergos in the gym, or something else. And then in the afternoon tends to be when we do our kind of our strength training. So we do kind of our strength and conditioning in the afternoons before kind of heading home, having a snack, having a bit of a downtime to recover, and then having dinner and going to bed. So it's not the most exciting day, but the days fly by when you're training hard, and when you're doing 3 to 6 hours of actual physical training a day. You get home, you're absolutely shattered, and all you do is you eat and go to bed, and it all starts again the next day. So, I mean, that's pretty much the routine I've had for the last couple of years. But kind of in the build up to a major championships and like the Olympics, you taper off towards it. So certainly in the few weeks leading into Rio, the mileage we were doing was getting less, and we were focusing more on speed work, and there's a lot more time in between sessions, so we weren't doing nearly the same amount of mileage we'd done in the winter. And certainly when it came to weight training, we weren't lifting such heavier weights. Everything was all about the fine tuning. So yeah, there's a little bit more time, but in that time you need to be making sure you're resting and recovering, so you get more time to do things, but you don't want to do anything because you're looking after yourself so well. So yeah, we kind of closed ourselves off from the rest of the world a little bit in the build up to the games.
I'm just listening to that. I'm just thinking about when you're leading up to that, and you have that routine. Does that help with kind of any nerves or tensions or thoughts, or because obviously it's what you've worked your whole 4 years for, your whole life for, is to go to the Olympics and be successful. Are you able to just shut off the actual race in the back of your mind and just concentrate on the work, or does it help thinking about it? Does it make you work a little bit harder? How does it work with the mental aspect when you're leading up to a big event such as an Olympics or a World Championships?
Yeah, I think having routine and the discipline in routine really helps, because you're doing things you've always done, so you don't get distracted by maybe some of the external factors. And also, for me, sticking to what we do and being very kind of practical and logical in the way where I approach training and approach racing means that I use like factual things around me to stay focused, and that helps me kind of control things like nervousness and things, because nerves are a good thing, but it's understanding why you're nervous, and it's using maybe the anxieties you might have as a positive thing, and be okay, I'm anxious and nervous because I'm worried about the outcome, okay, but the outcome doesn't have to be bad. I've got control over the outcome, and I know that I'm going fast. I know I'm pulling good scores. I know I'm stronger than I was last year, and we were winning last year, so there's no reason why I can't now win this year. And those are kind of the little things I use to help me kind of stay focused towards an event, and also kind of using the routine and discipline we do in training all the time, and then applying that into racing.
And you mentioned food and breakfast and dinner and everything like that. What would be your typical breakfast? And are you a person who can literally eat anything because you're burning so many calories, or are you still really focused on the diet?
Yeah, so if you'd asked me this question about 18 months ago, I would have been, I can eat most things, but I've got to be a little bit careful. However, I think as I've got older, my body's adapted slightly, and certainly in this last season, I found that I'm needing to eat more to manage the training. And this last winter, no matter how much I ate, I kept losing weight. And so we kind of had to reassess what I was eating in my diet, and I just needed more volume of things. So certainly when I first joined the rowing team, I remember sitting down with a nutritionist, and she was saying, well, okay, we need to cut out the amount of biscuits and snacks you have in the afternoons, and maybe a couple of the puddings a week sort of thing. Whereas this year she's been like, right, everything I told you to stop doing 4 years ago, put them back in your diet. So, I mean, breakfast it is all healthy, and I eat an awful lot of calories, probably near 5,000 to 5,500 calories is what I was aiming to eat this winter, which is a huge amount. Whereas previously I'd probably be anywhere between 3,500 to 4,000. But it's getting the right sort of calories. You can sit and eat chocolate and ice cream, but it's not the right sort of calories to help you with training. So it's having the protein and the carbohydrates and the right kind of vegetables and the right foods that kind of help you your body adapt to the training. So if you're getting muscle soreness, it's eating foods that help you with muscle soreness rather than just stuffing your face with a chocolate at the end of the day. Obviously chocolate helps a little bit. It makes you feel good.
Yeah. Is that your food vice? Is that the one thing you kind of treat yourself to, knowing perhaps you shouldn't?
A little bit. I think it's more because Helen loves chocolate so much, and we share rooms a lot when we go away, so she's always got a chocolate stash. So then I've suddenly become a bit more of a chocolate fiend as well. But ice cream's a bit of my go-to, I think.
So let's talk about, you mentioned Helen there. Let's talk about your relationship. How did you two first meet?
Yes, and we first met kind of the end of 2009. We were both training with Paul Stannard in Bath, but both also had jobs to do away from training. So I was in the army by then, and Helen was teaching. So she was in the group of athletes that Paul took on after I left university, because I trained with him at university and then I'd left and gone and joined the army. He took on a new group of athletes, and Helen was in that group. So when I went back to training with him, she was there, and I kind of met her briefly, and she was just another of his athletes that I kind of saw at weekends when I was training. But then, kind of the winter of 2009, 2010, we got to know each other a bit better, and actually ended up kind of doing some crew boat work together. So whether it was in the double or the pair, and we ended up doing kind of a mini training camp. It was just the two of us, because everyone else in the group had gone away, gone abroad that January, and we couldn't because of our jobs. So it was just the two of us training in Bath. So we did quite a lot of stuff together then, and we got to know each other and got on well. And I think then Paul saw maybe there's an opportunity to put us in a boat together to trial for the squad that April, and it all kind of built from there. And we've kind of stayed in a boat ever since, pretty much.
And obviously the relationship has had to be so close throughout the years, and that's part of what makes you so successful. What would you say are the strongest attributes you bring to the team, and the strongest ones that Helen brings? We're kind of polar opposites a little bit sometimes in training. She is incredibly competitive and driven, and it's not to say I'm not competitive, but in comparison to her, I look like I don't care, but I do. But she is extremely driven and has a real drive to be the best she can be, and that's really good for me, because sometimes I am a bit laid back. But on the flip side, being laid back and being a bit kind of calmer about things is also a good thing, so you don't get into this kind of whirlwind of we have to be better at this today sort of thing. And so she has a real sense of urgency in training, and sometimes I have a bit more of a stand back and look from the outside take on what we're doing. So I think we kind of complement each other really nicely, and certainly I'm a bit more process driven, where she's very outcome driven. So for her it's about getting the results, and for me it's about how do you get the results. And over the last few years we're kind of a bit of both now, both of us, and that's been really healthy, because obviously the way you get results is important, but then getting the results at the end of the day is all that really matters. So we're a nice complement of each other, but that's been really well I think with the use of Robin as well, our coach, the three of us, he's amazing, and he's a real calming influence on us both as well. And he kind of, between the three of us, it's not just me and Helen all the time. Robin's just as important a part of the crew. So it's
it's quite cool. It's a really unique situation to be in, to work with such a small group of people and to work so well with them for so long.
Yeah, it's great the way you were talking about how you're a bit more laid back, but she's a bit more kind of not focused, but more driven, and you're more process. She's more outcome. Bizarrely, I think I'm all four of those attributes, and that's probably why I'm not the best in the world, and that's why you're a great team. Now, you mentioned your coach as well. One of the things we talk a lot about on this podcast is goal setting. And one of the things a lot of people talk about, the top Olympic athletes we've had on here, talk about setting mini goals. Now, firstly, is that something you do? And secondly, when you talk about setting goals, and obviously you've got Helen wanting those outcomes, what type of intervals are you talking? Are you talking, all right, we've got to do this by the end of the week? Or are you saying this is our goal for the next 6 months, year? Or is it we're just working towards an Olympic gold medal or things like that? How do you split that all up?
Yeah, you definitely have to break seasons down. And ultimately, when you start an Olympic campaign, the end goal is the Olympics, because that's the end of it. So whatever your goal may be at that, of course, everyone would love to say our goal is to be an Olympic gold medalist. But the reality is some people need to just be a bit more realistic. And you know what? Some people's goal is just to compete at the Olympics. And that's an amazing thing to do in itself. But I think over time, especially here in GB, within Team GB, it's become, if you don't win a medal, it's not good enough. And that's not the case at all, because there's some amazing athletes, and just getting selected for the team is an absolutely phenomenal thing to do. But I think because as a team we're doing so well now, people are kind of disappointed if you're not coming home with a medal, which is kind of, we're kind of making it hard for ourselves by being so successful. But certainly for us, within that Olympic campaign, our goal has been, we want to go, certainly for Rio, to go defend the title, and gold was the goal. Breaking that down, you would look at each year as a stepping stone, and the World Championships each season were very important. For us, we hadn't been world champions before 2012, so that was something to achieve between 2012 and 2014. Helen did that in the first year with Polly in 2013, and then when I came back, it was a real goal for the two of us to become world champions together. We also had things like we wanted to set the world best time, which we also managed to achieve in 2014. But then within each season, we got the World Championships at the end, but we've also got World Cup regattas. So we use each of those races as a stepping stone towards the championships. We will set ourselves targets, whether it's a target to the way we're racing a race or a target to what the outcome is. I think over the years, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but like we'd go into races knowing we wanted to win and we should win because we knew we were capable of it. And so then it was about learning how's the best way to race and how can we get the most out of each race. Because for us, the ultimate goal was the Olympics, and we needed to use the seasons in between to learn a lot more about us, the way we race, and also learn about our competitors and how to put our competitors under pressure at different parts of the race. So I think we were lucky because we stayed together for a long time as a combination, and not many people get that opportunity to play around with the way they race. And often people are only together as a crew for a year, so they have to, that year, it's all about getting things right for that year, and they can't have the long-term progression that we've been able to have.
Well, I think it's far from arrogant. I actually love the confidence, and I think that's one of the things from what I've learned from speaking to 30 plus Olympic and world champions is that confidence which does help. The only thing I was going to ask though is when can you notice danger signs of being overconfident to the point where you don't perform your best because you're unprepared, you're not ready, but you think you're the best. Like, is there a danger of overconfidence?
There is, but I think we're very good at not letting ourselves, and we're really aware of that. I think Helen's very good at that. She has this kind of healthy paranoia of I'm not good enough, until we go out and we've started a race, we've done the heat of a race or a regatta weekend, and then it's okay, no, I know that what we've done in training is right, and we've just had one race of the weekend, and we're on the right path. But yeah, I think she's really good at, there's this healthy paranoia of not being good enough until you've actually gone and proved it to yourselves. And our confidence isn't blind confidence. We use facts to give us confidence, and we look at the times, and we look at the things we've done, and we look at what our competitors are doing. So it's real factual things we've done that give us the confidence, rather than us going, yeah, we think we're good, we think we're doing well, we feel good, so we must be. And that's not the case. It's we need to back it up with actual things we've done.
Was there a meet in the years you were working with Helen where you weren't successful, it was disappointing, but you learnt the most from it? Is there one in particular you remember?
I think that there are different ones where we learnt different things. So whether it's certainly in 2014, that whole season, for me, I wasn't coping with the volume of training we were doing. So when it came to racing, I knew that we could only go as fast as I could go. So that as a team, we were very limited by me. And that was really hard for me as an individual to accept that I was the weak link. But then it then meant every time we went out to race, I knew that Helen was ready to go and go more, and she was just limited by what I could do. So I think I learned over that season just how to manage myself and to give myself confidence in what I was doing, and knowing that what I did, Helen would be there ready to back me up all the way and be able to give more. But certainly then, I think in 2015, we learned a lot about the way we race, rather than less about ourselves as individuals, but more about kind of, we grew confidence in, and certainly there was a regatta, I think it was Lucerne in 2015, where I think from the outside people thought the opposition were getting a lot closer to us, but we wanted to see almost how late we could leave it and draw people towards us before kind of going for the line. And we had this moment in a race where we let the field come back to us. We'd got a really good start. We'd got ahead. We'd got a lead. We'd kind of broken clear and had a good, comfortable lead. And then we let the field come back to us. And rather than panicking and going, they've pushed and we should push, we were really confident in what we could do and our change in speed. That we're like, okay, we know we've done enough, and we're just going to let them tire themselves out getting towards us, and then know that we can kick away when we need to. And that was quite a key learning point for us. But certainly from the media's perspective, I think they all said, oh goodness, the young Kiwi pair were so close to you and they really challenged you. And for us, we didn't feel that was the case at all. But it was quite interesting what other people's take on what the race was for us. But it certainly gave us confidence, and we had to use the stuff we learned then in Rio. Certainly, like we knew that if people came close to us, we had the next gear to go, and we'd shown that ourselves previously, but maybe people hadn't realised that.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
We've got more from Heather in just a moment, but I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by Audible. All you got to do is go to audibletrial.com/best to get a free 30-day trial and one free audiobook download. They are one of the leading suppliers of audiobooks in the world, and that's what we love to do on this show. We like to get better and to learn, and you can certainly do that with audiobooks. It's something I personally use. I've listened to various different audiobooks, including Daniel Bryan's, yes, and I really, really enjoyed listening to them. If you like audiobooks, I recommend you try. And if you don't, but you just want to get smarter, why don't you give it a go? Give it a try. All you got to do, audibletrial.com/best. By helping yourself, you're also helping me and the best in the world with Richard Parr, because we produce this every Wednesday for you for free. So please help our show. All right, let's get back to the very best in the world. And this week is with Heather Stanning.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Is there anything else that you know now, rowing, that you wish you'd known when you started?
Oh, goodness. There's a number of things. Yeah, I think when people describe how much training you have to do, I think you just don't really believe it until you're doing it. And certainly, we're having a break after London, and then coming back. When you're in the program, you're doing it every day. It's routine. It's just what you do. You don't appreciate how fit you are just to be on the program, let alone completing the program. So coming back, having had a year away, just coming back onto the world class program, I was like, wow, it's insane how much we do, and you just take for granted how fit you are just to go day to day training. But you don't appreciate that because you're tired all the time. So you're the fittest you'll almost ever be in your life, but you're always tired. So you never feel the benefit of being so fit until you kind of taper down in the summer to a championships. But it's a funny feeling, yeah, not realizing how fit you are.
Are you ever recommended to rest? Like, obviously, when I read like a health and fitness magazine, for example, it says, oh, you know, after working out quite a lot, actually take a few days off, actually take a week off to rest and recover. Or can you just not afford to do something like that? Or is it not wise to do it?
I think just the way our program's written, we do get that rest and recovery, but we continue training. We can't afford not to. We can't afford to just have weeks off here and there because the skill phase you'll get from not being in the boat regularly and stuff. But so our program kind of goes in waves, and we'll have really heavy weeks to really light weeks to medium weeks, and we do a lot of what we call active recovery. So we're having that recovery time, but we're being active in the way we're doing it, and that is really important because your body does need to recover. And when you're doing like a really heavy phase of training, your body does need that time to recover. But we don't stop and do nothing. We carry on just being active, but giving our bodies time to adapt to what we've done the previous week or two. So yeah, the program's really carefully managed and put together by the physiologists and head coaches and stuff to get that kind of that wave of training effect as you go through the season.
Well, all of that hard work paid off with 2 Olympic golds, 2 World Championships, 2 European Championships, a lot of rowing World Cups. What was your favourite victory of them all?
I think there's a few that kind of really stand out to me. London was amazing because it was the first time we'd been in the middle of the podium hearing the national anthem, and it was an Olympic Games and it was at home. Rio again was fantastic because it was just the culmination of setting out to do that again, and it was really satisfying to be able to do that. I think if we'd set off with the ambitions of becoming Olympic champions again and not achieve that, it would be really disappointing 4 years. But Rio was really exciting in that sense. But I think my 2014 World Championship medal to me means an awful lot just because of the season I had going into that World Championships. But then my 2015 World Championship medal, I think that was probably one of the best races me and Helen did or whatever, have done to date. And so so they're all kind of different reasons. I'm excited by the 2015 one because it was such a good race we did. I'm excited by both the Olympic ones because they're the Olympic medals, and the 2014 was one that I didn't think I'd be able to achieve that season and managed to.
You're allowed to have them all because you've won them all. So
thanks.
You use different tenses there when you were talking about racing. What are the plans now for the team? Are we going to see you at Tokyo?
Potentially. I think that, like I did after 2012, I need to focus on my military career for a bit. So I've definitely said I'll not race next year. And Helen's the same. She feels like she just wants a year out because she went straight from London through to Rio non-stop. So we've both said we're going to have a year away. And I think within this year, we just need to decide whether Tokyo is something that realistically we want to and can do. Whether it's together or not, but there's no hurry for us to make a decision. So I think we're taking that time and making sure it's the right decision.
Well, I'm sure we'd all love to see you competing again and
Oh, thank you.
most likely winning another medal. Let's just very briefly talk about your army career. Just wanted maybe you could just tell our listeners what exactly you do with the army, what your title and role is, and perhaps part of what it's played in your career as an athlete, what you learnt from the army, which you were able to use to become an Olympic champion.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm really fortunate. I'm one of the few athletes in Team GB and on British world class programs who is also in the military. And for me, the army have supported me throughout my rowing career. So I'm a major in the Royal Artillery now, having managed to balance a rowing career with a military career and done all the relevant courses and jobs that have enabled me to keep promoting up the ranks. But the Army now have something called the Army Elite Sports Programme, and it's a recognised career path for soldiers and officers like myself who are elite athletes but also want to have a career in the Army. And so you can be an elite athlete and continue your career, which is it's an amazing opportunity, because I think when you start out as an athlete, you don't know whether you're going to reach the goals you've got, and you have ambitions of making the national team and going on to World Championships or Olympics, but you don't know if you'll ever do that. And you may be unfortunate and get an injury, and therefore your sporting career is over. But what do you do after that? And I certainly feel that I know I've always had something to fall back onto. I've been very lucky that my sporting career has gone incredibly well, and I've got the results I set out to achieve. But if I hadn't, what else would I be doing? And so I think because I've got the Army as a career, a viable career, alongside being an Olympic athlete, it's certainly been really helpful for me. And certainly when I come to focus on being an athlete, having a bit of perspective away from sports has been really helpful. Because athletes, we're very selfish. It's all about us and what we do, making us the best we can be, and using everyone around us to make us better. And actually sometimes stepping back and looking from the outside, or maybe getting involved in something different, I found really useful. Certainly returning to work with the Army after London gave me something totally different to focus on, and mentally meant that my transition from one Olympics to the next was really healthy. I didn't have any moment of kind of not sure what I'm doing with my life. What do I do? I've achieved the goals I wanted to do, but I don't know what to do next. Because I was focusing on my next task in hand, which was returning to work with the Army, getting a job done there, going on tour to Afghanistan. And then I came back from that, and straight away I was focusing on, right, what's next? Here's my end goal. I need to get back into training. I need to make the team, need to make the boat I want to be in. I've got to train hard. So I've been really lucky to have kind of support from both sides, and the Army's been absolutely amazing in ensuring that I can have the time off to train when I need it, but also giving me a job to do where I feel I can add value and I can still do a good job. Because certainly working with the soldiers, they're really good at bringing you back to earth, and I'm not there to be a personality. I'm there to do a job and get the job done properly, and if I don't do the job, it's going to affect other people. And so that's been really, really great. So I mean, I'm lucky that the part of the Army I work in, I get to work with some really intelligent and clever guys, and the soldiers are great at what they do. As an officer, I'm just there to manage them. So it's really great, and I've really enjoyed the jobs I've done. So I'm kind of looking forward to kind of getting back stuck into work and seeing what kind of the next stage of my Army career may be.
It's great being around smarter people. They say you're the average of the 5 people around you. So if you're around a lot of smarter people, it means you're up there. So it's great.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all really driven as well, which is really exciting. They're driven for their own goals and the goals of whether it's the unit or the organisation. So it's really exciting to work with people who are ambitious and driven, but not in a selfish way. They're really selfless, and it's a really cool environment to be in.
It must be weird for some athletes and sports stars who don't go to that environment when they've had so much focus and determination and dedication, and then they move to a job or career where they're with people who don't have that similar feeling. It must be a bit strange.
Yeah.
So you're quite fortunate in that sense.
Oh, definitely, really fortunate. And I certainly know that there's been a bit of a focus on kind of athletes coming to the end of their careers and the transition they go in from being an athlete to to being a regular person who has a normal job. And there is a transition phase, and it does take people time to adapt, because your identity for so long has been about you being an athlete, and suddenly that's not you anymore. And what do you do? And yeah, people take that for granted a little bit, and they think you can just flip from one to the other really quickly, and you can't. It does take time to adjust.
Well, I know I've taken so much of your time already, so we're going to wrap things up here. Just before we go, perhaps you want to tell our listeners anywhere they can follow you online, if there's a website or anything on social media, or even if you don't have it, and also if there's any causes you're involved with or any charities, because as you were talking about, in many ways it's about giving back. Yeah,
definitely. I think I'm not someone who's great on social media, so I have an Instagram account, Heather M. Stanning, but I mean it's really me just sharing my journey, whether it's been through rowing or military, just what I get up to. But it's probably not that interesting unless you're someone who loves rowing. But I think for me, I try and support any military charity, whether it's the Royal British Legion or BLESMA, the Army Benevolent Fund, the SAFA, the Soldiers, Sailors and Air Force families. There's so many kind of military charities out there who are doing a lot, not just for the soldiers themselves, but the families as well, which is also important, because that's something as an athlete I've learned about. It's not just about me, it's about my support network around me. And that's exactly the same for military personnel. It's not just them as individuals, it's all their families. And that's really important, that we're all looked after as a collective. So, but yeah, in terms of sport as well, I think I've been really lucky to go into sports clubs and schools and see youngsters getting involved in stuff. And I've real admiration for the volunteers who give up a lot of their time to enable youngsters to get involved in sport. So it's certainly something I've got a lot of admiration for people who do that, and I wish I had a bit more time to do something like that myself. Maybe as I get older I will.
I think with you, Heather, you've done enough for those kids and everything like that, and not only what you do with the Army, but just inspiring people by your success. And I'm sure there's young girls and young children around the world watching you and Helen's great work and great success in Rio, in London, and all the World Championships, and they probably look going, I want to be like her one day. So I think you've done your part.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. But yeah, I mean, if just from what Helen and myself have done, it inspires one or two young teenage girls to just stick with sport because they love it. I think that's great. It's not to shy away from something you love, and just because it's not the cool thing to do, and don't stop doing something you love, because sport's an amazing thing, and you make so many friends, and it's an absolutely fantastic adventure to be on, taking part of sport, and also it gives you so much confidence in wider life as well. So yeah, I stick with sport.
Well, I've been inspired by you, Heather, and I think
thank you.
A lot of our listeners will as well. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for being the best in the world.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Thank you.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Thanks so much to Heather for appearing on this week's Best in the World with Richard Parr. If you're a rower or enjoy rowing or enjoyed that chat, maybe you'll also like my conversation with Mahe Drysdale, the New Zealand rowing Olympic champion. Fun chat with him. We've had it about 2 weeks ago on the podcast, so go back and listen to that. But even if you're not a rower, but you just enjoy learning from the very best, we've got so many different stars and athletes that you will enjoy learning from. They could be footballers, cricketers. What else we've got? Canoe, Etienne Stott, for example. You might want to listen to him. Gary Hunt, the cliff diver. We've got rugby players, Chester Williams. So many great people you can learn from on the Best in the World. Please subscribe to the show on iTunes. Also give us a rating and review. That's really important to help boost our rankings of the show. And share on social media, on Twitter, Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Richard_Parr. We're also on Facebook, Best in the World with Richard Parr. And all of the back catalogue is also on richardparr.net. And get in touch with me if you've got any thoughts about the show, any questions you'd like me to ask our future guests, or any particular guests you would like to have us interview on the programme. Let me know on those social media channels. Well, it's been great to talk to you, been great to talk to Heather, and I will be back again next Wednesday on The Best in the World.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.